Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, mute that.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing.
Hello, David.
Hi, David. You gonna join us online tonight?
Yeah, you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're gonna adjust the sound a little bit. Can you hear us pretty good, David?
It sounds like you're in a tunnel, but yeah, I mean, I don't have like full bars either where I am right now. So
Okay. We'll go ahead then. I'll call the regular council meeting April 28th to order at 6:02. We had no closed session items tonight. There's no closed session report. Call the open session to order, and Dr. Griffiths, will you lead us in the pledge?
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Our interim clerk, Amy, is not available tonight, so Wes, will you take the roll, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Ackerman,
present.
Tula,
Here.
Mendoza. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Burris. Present. Mayor Loman.
Motion to approve the agenda order. So moved. Right. Wes, will you call the roll since we're not all present?
I can remember what my role is. Great. Councilmember Ackerman.
Present. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we're looking for a yay or nay vote on the agenda order.
Oh, sorry. Again, it's hard to. Yeah, yay.
Councilmember Petula.
Yep.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Burris.
Aye.
Mayor Loman.
We will move on to item 3, agency reports. Secretary Griffiths.
Good evening, council members. Sergeant Griffiths, first time seeing you all in person in here. It's kind of nice to be in person instead of sitting out at Station 10 down in Auburn with the Cal Fire guys. It's kind of nice, better view. Anyways, there's not a lot to report. Every month our stats are staying about relative to what's going on in the community. What we have noticed and what I've noticed is our individuals within the community tend to call City Hall first instead of calling the sheriff's office when they're trying to report things. that really doesn't do us a whole lot of good, because by the time I get the information, by the time the deputies who are out there working the street get it, it's very hard for them to respond to what's going on. So I'd really ask that the community reaches out to us, whether they call dispatch at the 530-889-5375 number, or if they want to reach out to Facebook, they want to send me a message. I'm constantly checking it. That's one way they can send me what's going on. The complaints about the kids downtown, I've had deputies sitting on the street corner. You guys all know Parker. He was sitting there, had a conversation with the kids. The kids are looking for something to do. I want to thank you all for approving the skateboard park and taking it to the next level, because I think that's going to help this youth out so much in this community. I'm a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old myself. I never thought when I saw in a skate park, I was one of those parents that would drive by and go, I don't want my kid there. Until my 13-year-old said, you have to go. Yeah, I want to go to the skate park. So I went, and I spent about 3 hours there, and this isn't in a great part of Sacramento that I was at, but I was there and I was watching those kids teach each other tricks. I watched a person as old as me, I'm kind of up there, with his knee pads on, his helmet on, his elbow pads, out there doing what the kids were doing. It was during the daytime hours. I didn't see anybody cussing. I didn't see anybody smoking dope. I didn't see any of the negatives that I expected to see. So you guys made that announcement last week or last meeting and said, hey, we want to support that. That's what our kids here in Colfax need. So I just wanted to thank you all for that. I think once we get them a spot to go, because the park, the baseball, is great for those athletes. The park is good for the little kids, but those 13-year-olds, they could either be at home on a computer or a video game machine, or they can be out there doing something productive. That's much more productive than being at home. Otherwise, that's all I've got. Anybody have any questions?
There's a lot of sirens and all this afternoon. Sound like from the train, must have hit a person or something?
Well, yeah, we had a subject this early afternoon, late morning, that was out walking on the tracks. The train clipped him at about 25 miles an hour. He did survive with Cal Fire, Forest Hill Fire. I believe these guys can speak to the response of that. I got there after they had already put him under care and were actually carrying him off the tracks to an ambulance. He was talking. I'm not sure what he's at now at this point, but the train came to a stop and will stop for quite a while.
Was it a youth or an adult?
It was an adult.
Okay.
So, but he did survive as far as I know. Another good reminder of not to go on the tracks.
We used to have train safety programs that went into the school. Was that you guys or was that fire? I can't remember. When I first got on.
I truly don't know. I think that would be up to Union Pacific. It might be our community services team. I can get a hold of, Sergeant Connors and ask him.
When you find out from him, that would be great. Let's see if we can get some public information going again.
Okay.
Get some report. We do that every year. Even though it was an adult, we still want to stay proactive on our little guys.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
I just want to say thanks to you and your deputies. Town's looking great. Still, can't thank you guys enough. We're seeing the extra effort and everybody's noticing it.
Good. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. We now have a representative from CHP tonight. So, Chief Egan.
Good evening, council members of the audience at home. Brian Egan, Battalion Chief, Cal Fire, Placer County Fire Department, in the City of Colfax Fire Department. It's very good to be back, standing in front of all of you again, get some normalcy back to our lives and be able to have a little bit better interaction. So for this evening's staff report for our Colfax City volunteers, they should be finishing up their mandatory wildland training the end of this month. And that's part of starts in March. We run it through April and ended in May. And it's the mandatory wildland training that all of our local government firefighters get in order to function on a state or a federal incident over the course of the summer. Last month I submitted, or actually 2 weeks ago now, almost last month, I submitted the Cal Fire grant on behalf of the City of Colfax. The grant, some of you are familiar with, every year at this time, local government agencies can submit to Cal Fire a proposal for grant funding for a number of different pieces of equipment or training opportunities things that would help in this particular case, a volunteer fire department during wildland fire season. This year's grant is in excess of $18,000, the request, and it's for mobile radios for all of the fire engines. So we'll find out in the first part of August whether we were successful with that. And over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, the city's received just about $40,000 from that grant proposal. So it's been a real successful process. It's a 50-50 grant. So we're requesting $18,555, I believe was the amount. And it's a 50-50 equal share between the city and CAL FIRE. So if we get to the point where we're successful in that total amount, the city will be looking at about a $9,000 investment to match what CAL FIRE is going to be providing. Here in the next month or so, we're going to start our annual services for our 3 pieces of apparatus that are in service. That'll include pump testing and getting our ladder testing up to speed. For CAL FIRE, both locally and within our unit and region-wide, we've already started our increase in our staffing for fire season. We went to what's called level 2 staffing last week. That's 1 engine per battalion. May 17th, we'll look at going to level 3 staffing. That's 1 engine per every one of our stations. That doesn't necessarily impact or affect us locally because both of our CAL FIRE stations and our sister station down in Auburn are already staffed during the course of the winter. It mainly deals locally with the funding of how those engines are paid for, who staffs or who covers the funding for the staffing. And then we're estimating peak staffing will be June 21st, if we make it that far. I think if the dismal rain show that we were supposed to get over the weekend is any indication, we'll probably be seeing that get scooted up sooner than the 21st of June. We'll see our aircraft be formally on base at Grassville Air Attack Base June 1st. They're actually out and about flying now. They're doing training missions. Both our air attack platform and both of our tankers are flying out of Grass Valley and out of our McClellan tanker base. And so you may see them out and about. They are available for missions in the event that they're airborne and we break a fire. And our base right now is capable of reloading those tankers if we had something happen. And there's been a couple of fires that we've had in the last couple of weeks where they were pushing the limits of aircraft being requested on those fires. So we'll be ready if we have something happen. May 1st, burn permits will be required locally and within the region. Burn permits can be obtained either online at the CAL FIRE public website or come into the CAL FIRE stations. We're still issuing them out of the fire stations. And with that, again, it's all going to be weather dependent and activity dependent, but looking probably somewhere around the mid part of June, no later than the 1st of July, burning will be suspended until we get substantial rain late into the fall, early winter. And with that, and this is more of a public service announcement than it is really a report to the council, but our recent activity over the course of this winter has been extraordinary and frankly extremely frustrating for the number of escape debris burns we've had, not only within our unit, but within the battalion. Right now, we're just over a dozen vegetation fires that were the direct result of a control burn either escaping because it had no clearance or that it was not being attended to. To correlate how that looks based on the last 2 years, in 2020, there were 47 vegetation fires in the battalion. 17 of those were the result of a debris burn escape or illegal burning. In 2019, there were 53 vegetation fires in the unit or in the battalion, and 13 of those were caused by debris burn escapes or burning illegally. Right now, here we are at the end of April, we're already at slightly over a dozen vegetation fires for the year in the battalion. So got to ask people, yes, it's the end of April. Yes, we should be well within spring, but the conditions out there right now are so dry that we have to be taking extra precautions to ensure that the debris burning that we want you to do for the removal of your vegetation that you're safe doing. So
About how many of those were unattended fires?
it's probably 50-50, whether it's someone lighting a pile
Yeah.
and then going about their daily activities to people lighting pile and frankly having zero clearance.
Yeah.
Just because burn permits aren't required doesn't mean that you should not still take the same safety precautions that you do starting May 1st.
Yeah, I know I called one in that was for the property that's along Main Street as you go past Dave's boat place. There's a metal building that's down there, and they had a huge burn pile got burning in front of it and nobody to be seen.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And, just like anything, somebody steps around the corner. They really were in attendance. They stepped around the corner out of someone's view, but
But we were there about 15 minutes and
yeah,
before
but
we
more
called
often
it
than
in.
not, they're
Yeah.
just, they're comfortable with walking away because, well, we're in April. We're
Yeah.
not in fire season yet. So, so with that, that's the end of my report. Any questions related to any of those subjects? No? Specific to the incident that was discussed with the train and the pedestrian, Chief Estes has some information he'd be more than happy to share for you. And then if there's any follow-up questions, I'll be back on shift tomorrow. I can talk to the company officers that were on the incident. So, Chief Estes.
Hey, good evening, council members. Thank you very much and glad to see everyone. Brian Estes, your city fire chief, county fire chief, and the state unit chief. So I just wanted to recognize that Brian hardly ever takes a day off. So the fact that he wasn't on this call today is actually a rarity that I get to speak on behalf of him when it has something to do with the city of Colfax or our surrounding areas. But this was a significant incident. Luckily, it turned out fairly minor in nature for the subject. But as Sergeant Griffith said, subject on the tracks, just down from Cape Horn and the S curves, the S turns there. Luckily, because the train was pulling the grade, it was estimated to be at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. The subject did stand against the train and was hit directly by the train. Thankfully, instead of being pulled down under the train, subject was knocked off of the tracks and off the embankment, approximately 50 feet down. Did suffer some pretty significant injuries, was able to climb back up to kind of a flat landing about 20 feet down from the railway. We had our full response out of County Fire, Cal Fire, both engines out of Station 30 and Battalion 2318 responding. Upon the first due arriving resources, we activated the Placer County Fire Department Technical Rescue Team because we thought that there was going to be a much more involved rescue, and also started the process for a hoist-capable helicopter so that we could expedite the rescue operation. Thankfully, we were able to cancel the helicopter, and the rescue team, the crews out of Station 30, were able to get the patient packaged and up and cared for. Patient basically had bilateral clavicle injuries and a skull fracture, but very fortunate that the injuries were what they were. So, any questions on that? Okay, thank you, folks.
Thanks.
Nope. Thanks for being here tonight, Chief Estes, Chief Lieutenant. Thank you very much. Okay. We don't have any other agency representatives here tonight. So item 4, no presentations. Item 5, no public hearings tonight. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion and a council vote. Does anybody have anything they want to pull from the consent calendar?
I'd like item 6 pulled just for a 2-minute discussion.
Okay. That's, anything else?
Motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 6E.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Councilmember Petula,
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Burris.
Aye.
Mayor Loman.
Aye.
Okay, my question on 6E is, Russ, could you take a minute and just describe that? Because the wording on here just seems a little vague if a person's not familiar with what it is.
Sure. I mean, the intent of this, of pretty much any development with frontage improvements that eventually become the asset of the city, like the sidewalks, curb and gutter, and road improvements, there's an offer of dedication from the developer. So they're basically gifting the land to the city for the improvements. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you. Motion to approve 6E.
Second.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fatula.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Burris.
Aye.
Mayor Loman.
Do we have any public comment tonight? Is anybody in the audience?
Mayor, we have one from online, if I may. From Mary Coleman, and she says, this is Mary Coleman, office manager for the pharmacy. Colfax Drug Company is now giving COVID vaccines. Call to schedule appointment.
Good news? No, seeing no more public comment? We'll move on to council and staff reports.
I have nothing to report, except for I'm very happy to hear that the hard work paid off at the pharmacy.
I'm going to do a thing.
Anything to report tonight? David, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know you were talking to me. Nothing to report other than just sorry I couldn't be there. I had to take my daughter to a soccer game because my wife couldn't, but nothing to report.
The only thing I have to report tonight is just action from our Placer County Transportation Planning Agency this morning. Just one note of significance, because we do have a pretty large senior community up here. There is going to be some changes coming to the rideshare programs that are available. So we have a couple different programs that the county currently participates in, but those programs are going to be combined into one program that's going to be rolling out within the next several months. So you should be hearing from those program administrators if you currently participate in the rideshare programs for medical appointments, so on and so forth. But the new program is going to expand eligibility for those rides to include low-income people as well. And if you do have any questions, you can contact me and I will get you in touch with Kathleen at the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency to get you more information.
I have nothing to report tonight. Wes?
One item I want to report tonight, I've actually got some good news from CDBG. We finally have granted the city of Colfax the CV1 funding, which is for the subsistence program for the residents. It'll be another couple of weeks before the program's pulled together, but I'm hoping sometime in May we'll have that out for the citizens to apply for it. So that gives them mortgage relief and their utility bill relief as well, as far as their cable. Doing that as well. Program. The first cycle, the CV1, is $62,000. All I have, Mr.
That concludes our reports for tonight. That will move on to item 9, council business. Item 9A, council technology device policy. Wes, do you want to kick this off?
Pretty straightforward. The staff has received requests from council to provide technology devices to conduct their city business. Currently, we have one council member that does have a cell phone. Council does not have a policy established regarding what, if any, technology should be provided to council members for the city's business use. Staff is recommending that you discuss whether you want to entertain the idea of having IT equipment for the council members. If you do, there's a series of questions we've listed down here below for you to consider if you go in that direction.
All right, then I guess we'll start with the big question. Does council want to provide council members with any type of technology devices at city expense for use in conducting city business?
Sean, I'm going to say I'm adamantly against it. I would say if there's question as to whether or not we have the tools to do our job, then we should discuss the amount of the stipend. But I think it should be every council member's personal responsibility to procure and maintain the equipment they need to do their job. I think it's too messy to have the city participate in the procurement and maintenance and, sort of that facilitation of that when all of our needs are perhaps different. And I think that, the current city cell phone situation, we need to talk about a transition with that, port the number over, make that a personally owned number by that council member, and the council member should take that over. I don't think that we should be involved in this any further. That's my personal position. I'd love to hear from everybody else.
What do you think?
So, well, I just think that if we look at this from a financial piece, which is how I'm always going to look at things, yeah, everybody is entitled to have a cell phone if one person is getting it. So, I just think saving money for the city is the best thing to do. Yeah, so I'm just gonna see what everybody else's thoughts are before I decide what my decision is.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so I basically agree with Trinity, and Marnie brings up an excellent point. If you make an exception or help out one, then basically, like, where do you draw the line? I mean, we could all ask for technology, and I just think it's a lot cleaner to not have the policy at all. And hopefully we'll be meeting in person going forward. Well, when I'm not taking my daughter to soccer games, and we'll be in person, so we won't really need access to the technology. So I guess I agree with the opinions that have been thrown out thus far.
Okay.
I'm not interested in the cell phone question, so that one doesn't apply to me. I'm looking at the computer technology under this. So when I started as a city councilman, I bought one laptop, right? The laptop is now aged out so that Microsoft can't upgrade it anymore. So I'm now stuck with having to go out and buy a second laptop if I would like to continue to receive email. Otherwise, I have to have Wes basically deliver hard copy versions of all the email, which makes it painful. And I don't mind spending the money once to buy a laptop for doing this, but I hate to put out an additional $500 to buy a second laptop. So that's my struggle right now. It's like, it's going to cost more in labor if I don't than it will cost for a laptop. And a laptop could be something that you just transfer to the next council member when my seat becomes vacant and somebody else takes that position. So it's not like stuff you have to maintain. It's basically set it up once and it's good for 4 years. So mine aged out to 3 years, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the struggle that you presented there would exist in either situation. It would just be a matter of, is the city taking that ongoing liability, or is the council member who may only serve in office for a single term taking that liability? And so that's my concern with it is, when we're talking about the age out of computers and the way that unfortunately they have the deprecation over time and they don't last, I personally would rather take a look at this situation from the perspective of how much of a stipend is accurately going to cover the tools we need to do our job versus the perspective of the city having to maintain or procure any of that with this equipment. I would agree with you that there are certain purchases. I personally did the same thing. When we first started, I went out and bought a brand new laptop and bought a cell phone and used those two things specifically for city business and city business alone. But there is some comfort in that sort of taking that and doing that yourself, because you got to think when the public comes to you with a position as a council member, they're not coming to you as an employee of the city. They're coming to you as an independently elected official, and the information that they're giving to you may be specific to you and they don't want to share with everybody else. And so when we look at the conversation as a whole, when we talk about, is it a computer, is it a cell phone, what piece of technology is it? For me, I think it's best to have that technology owned individually because, and this is a separate thing I would like to address to council, is why are we W-2 and not 1099? But in my opinion, we should be 1099 independent contractors, and therefore this shouldn't really apply.
There's actually an IRS ruling that says you're employed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been addressed several times over the years, and the IRS has always come down.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, so I'll go back to my position before. It says, I'm already past one laptop. And my laptop right now, about 25% of the time they receive email. So the rest of the time it's like, well, somebody needs to get a hold of me, make a hard copy and bring it up. And I can't put my personal email and stuff and the city email on the same machine. I can't do that with the business stuff because I have to keep all these isolated for my own reasons. Right? And that way, if somebody was to ever subpoena the city's laptop, here's a laptop, take it. Go ahead, have at it. So either I think, and my reason for not probably wanting this in a stipend is I have no use of this hardware after my term is over. So if I owned it personally, okay, well, I got a $500 computer sitting around, it's an extra computer, right? If the city owned it, they could just wipe it and pass it on to the next person and get maybe another use out of it for another cycle. That's kind of my thought on this. And the other thing is buying them individually versus buying it as a city. The city will get a better price leverage on this stuff than I will do as an individual. So, anyhow.
I'm not so much in favor of spending the money on it. I do see that it could be beneficial to have the city providing that because of the subpoenability of your personal devices and what information can be taken off of those, and then your loss of your personal device. Actually, since we have Sean here, you want to weigh in on this subject at all?
You have to come to a mic.
We can grab you a mic, or you can come up. Sorry to put you on the spot here, Sean.
So I've seen our customers go two ways with this. We've seen plenty of them who usually it's a cell phone, it's not a laptop. Laptops are almost always purchased by the company that's hiring the person. Your situation is a little more unique. And so, but yeah, the subpoena situation is one that comes up with accessing any kind of organization email from a cell phone. Typically, at least with email, everything is accessible on servers nowadays because it's all in the cloud. So I think in a subpoena situation, access to the server is all they would need, not the cell phone itself, if it's coming up with email. But if you have a laptop, then you've got other files and things that may not have passed through email that they may want to have access to and would therefore subpoena a laptop for. And so it's a little more likely with a laptop than it is with a cell phone that you could lose the device due to a subpoena temporarily. And so that's the one thing to consider there for that.
Yeah, so you can't put any city data basically on any personal device. So that brings it back to the same question. It says, I don't have a problem buying one, but I'm looking at this as now I got to go buy a second one, and that's a problem. So if I don't do that, then Wes will be forced to do manual mail for all the email. Yeah. Okay. And then the labor cost of that will probably easily exceed the price of a laptop. That's the trade-off.
We did have a question, like a direct question from the public. Tom Parnham asked, can the council members use a computer at City Hall? I guess that's a question for Wes.
currently don't have a station set up for that on office space. As you know, we're pretty limited here, but we could set up a space if that's what council.
Well, I think that that's a good idea. I mean, just to have a computer here with a printer and whatnot, so that if we had things that need to be printed out, you know, we can just do that. I don't know where we would do it, or would you put something like that? There's no room, right?
Downstairs is limited in room, and I mean, I wouldn't want to put a device like that in where it's accessible in the back room like this. I mean, the only option I'm seeing right now is potentially upstairs, and that creates its own issues of ADA access and people going up and down the stairs, and that's why we don't have any more services upstairs, because it's not safe.
Thanks.
Other thing I think that could be useful for having the city manage the council's IT equipment that's provided would be that extra security we get. We've been getting hit by spam emails and the spoofed emails on my email name, but with a different email address recently. Everybody in council got one?
I got another one today.
Yeah, so somebody is using my name to send council emails right now. It's been the same email address, I think. Same Gmail address or whatever they set up. But that's another benefit, I think, to having city-controlled assets doing city business. Because our IT professionals can ensure the security of those devices. But no, I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, that's like when I was looking at my Windows one that I have right now, none of the security updates can be applied anymore because it's out of storage. And it's not upgradable. It's all hard soldered on the board storage, so you can't add stuff. And I had one of the IT guys from the city look at it and he said, yep, it's time to throw it out.
Yeah, and Sean brought up a good point. So how does that work with the IT? So if we don't have the technology, like how are we, because we got that two-step. We have the two-step thing in now, right? So how are we being protected as far as, you know, this sensitive information that we have? I mean, will that go with it? You know what I mean? If we wipe the slate clean and say no technology, does that mean that the IT people aren't there to help us either? You know, how does that put, what does that look like?
I think I probably just need to clarify my perspective, and maybe my perspective doesn't match the perspective of the rest of the council, and that's fine. But from my perspective, you know, we receive a stipend of $100 a month, and from my perspective, that money is to go back into us doing our jobs, and I think that's more than enough money for us to procure the equipment we need, maintain it, and make sure that we're good to go. You know, that's $1,200 a year. I think that that's perfectly adequate, and that's what I've been able to do with mine. And again, not everybody might agree with me, and that's fine, but that's just where I stand on it.
Looking to look at our stipend? I mean, is that something that we should just bring into the good of the order? Because I'm willing to bring that into the good of the order. If that's, you know what I mean? Is that what you want to look at?
Perspective is if that stipend is not adequate to provide us with the basic tools and necessities to do the bare minimum functions of our job, then yes, I would say that we should take that back and reconsider the stipend amount accordingly based on the cost of doing our job. And again, I understand that that might not be what everyone believes that the stipend is for or whatever. And I have no disrespect for how everyone else feels about it. I'm just saying that that's how I feel, and that's how I would prefer to approach this.
Yeah, and then remember, we're on a W-2, Trinity, so we actually I get like $94 or something.
Yes, yeah, taxes, Social Security, all that. But, you know, again, that's, you know, in the range of $100, bucks a month. And I do think that that's adequate to provide the tools we need to do the job. But if, that's off by $35, then I'd be willing to say, let's reconsider it by $35 or whatever the realistic change is. But I just don't feel comfortable putting this in the budget.
I was just prepared in case you needed any additional input.
Right. Do we want to think about this more? Do we want to vote on having whether we do technological devices for council members now, or you guys think we're kind of split here? So.
Yeah, well, one thing that we haven't talked about, Wes, is the cost. Like, what are we looking at? So what I'm trying to say is, if one person has a cell phone, but then that entitles everybody to have a cell phone, how much is that price? And then if one person wants a laptop, and everybody, so we need to look at it as everybody gets this, not just, one person that wants a laptop or one person that wants to keep a cell phone. You know what I mean? We have to look at it as a whole, as the whole body gets, if we're going to say yes, that they get it. Does that make sense?
So Les, are you able, let's just look at from a perspective of what we're spending right this moment today. Are you able to tell us how much we're spending today on the one piece of equipment that we are maintaining and keeping service on? About $60 a month. Okay.
And that's, and you also have to consider the purchase of the phone too, which is usually around about 800, and now that's paid off. That's usually somewhere between the $15 and $20.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that would be my proposal, is if we take that, assume it's $80 a month, and, take that into consideration there. My preference tonight would be for us to consider a transition plan to get away from us having any council members with a city cell phone. That's completely separate from the computer topic. I'd like to get away from that completely. And then I'd like us to not procure and maintain laptops. If stipends need to change accordingly to make sure that everyone has the equipment, that's fine, but I think that's a separate discussion. That's just where I stand.
Options then.
So I just want to keep this in the money perspective too. So we said, how much did you say, 80 or 60?
Approximately 80.
So if we went 60 times 5, but then you have the cost of the phone, because everybody would be getting new phones. So that would be a lot. And then if you got everybody individual laptops, I don't know, I spent $300 for my laptop. I don't know what the range is out in the retail market. I got it used. So, times 5. I don't know. I'm just saying, I want us to be careful with our budget, and yeah, I'm kind of in alignment with trying to spending money. And then the other thing too that I'm thinking about too is, if you have the staff doing things for your cell phone, then what happens if they have to be pulled away from their desk? Then you're talking about time that they have to be pulled away from their desk to go take care of something for that specific item that's not even really in their role of what they're supposed to do. So that's maybe 2 hours.
Software comes with equipment too, and that's another cost. And, software right now, can be pretty significant, because you can't just go down to the store and buy a disk from Microsoft Office that's going to last you forever anymore. Now they find a way to ding you on a subscription forever. So
every device that we add to the plan is an additional cost from the IT services. Just want everybody to be aware of that.
Okay. So, that's another level.
On this. So does this say that council members are required to buy the equipment they need to do for their job? Yep.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah, so then when we look at the labor cost of making the hard copies, we will easily exceed that in a month for what the laptop would cost.
I'm not familiar with how many emails council members get. We don't monitor like that. Printing currently is what, 5 cents a page?
I don't think that's an adequate comparison, since our email's all stored on a server. I think the email access solely and alone, it doesn't make sense to me to have to print out every email. I think if you need to come in and we need to dedicate a laptop in City Hall for general use of the council, that's one thing. And it can be put away and pulled out as needed. But there's a lot of creative, like Sean said, I think we need to look at different options here, obviously, because I think there's a lot of solutions here. I don't like the idea of the city procuring and maintaining equipment for every council member.
I'm picking up that there's still some appetite for a little bit of discussion here and getting some more information. Why don't we do this, if everybody's okay with it? why don't we give a cost estimate for cell phones, for the 5 cell phones, for 5 laptops separately. That way we can compare those costs, and then the cost of setting up a single computer here for council to use. Can we do that?
Also want to consider stipend, because that was another issue.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at this for a while. I think the maximum stipend for a city is $300 a month.
Maybe even make an option to convert the stipend to purchase that piece of equipment. So the person could waive their stipend in lieu of getting a piece of technology, or the amount of the cost of the technology while they're on council.
I'm willing to consider anything that keeps our budget right where it's at.
Those sound like okay options to you guys to investigate? Keep the discussion going, see if it's something feasible.
Whatever the body wants.
David, you got any additional comments on this that you'd like to make, or are you okay with the direction we were talking about?
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion to just not include, not add this coverage of whether it's a laptop, cell phone to our budget. And but what Trinity just literally just said is kind of what I was going to say. And I mean, if there's a creative way to, Sean, per your suggestion, to whatever, use the stipend money that to cover it, as long as it just doesn't add to the bottom line of the budget. I was going to make that kind of motion, but it sounds like we're going to carry it on for more discussion, which is fine if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, but that motion then, if I understand what you're saying, requires council members to spend the stipend for equipment. So that's a mandatory requirement.
I don't think we're to the point of a motion, not yet. I think it's going to be just provide staff with the direction that we just talked about, and then take it up at our next meeting. That sounds okay.
That's fine. If that's what most everybody wants to do, I'm for that.
Okay, looks like everybody's in agreement here then. Wes, sorry to give you more work, but
I just want to make sure I'm clear what we're bringing back to the next meeting. We have that look at costing out for equipment for council, the laptops, the cell phones.
which are separate items, just a laptop or just a cell phone or just a single computer.
And then also a discussion on whether to increase the stipend.
We need to bring that up in the good of the order. It's completely separate.
Well, no, it's directly related to the item on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's just an alternative, proposal to address the same issue. So, yeah, and yes, that would be part of it. Just essentially, it would like to see the full scope of the different options that were discussed here tonight and what they would cost the city.
Thank you, Wes. All right. That concludes the discussion for item 9A. So staff has their direction. I'll go ahead and move on to item 10, good of the order. Marnie, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I'd like to kick it off with, I'd like us all to review the stipends and maybe increase our stipends. That's all I got.
So I've been crawling through a lot of the Pioneer stuff, Pioneer Energy stuff, trying to understand what their business case is. Right now, Pioneer is more expensive than PG&E, which when you look at a business case of why would you use Pioneer service, I can't answer that question yet. They have a lot of discussions where they hope the rates will go down in the future to get it so that they're competitive again with PG&E. Their big push is local control, but the bottom line is if the bill is not lower, I don't know what local control is. So we got a strategy meeting coming up in about a week, and that's going to be one of the topics that I'm bringing up. That's all I have.
David, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready?
I just wanted to bring up that the 3rd of July is well into planning. They're looking at bringing in a car show and bringing back the soapbox derby for the kids. So that'll be a lot of fun. It looks like there's going to be 4 bounce houses. And Tom Drennan is coming, and they will also have a DJ. So they're well underway, working on planning. Hopefully we can get some rain, some fireworks don't have to get canceled. But everyone's working their tails off right now to try to make it happen.
Not a red flag warning day. We shouldn't be canceling fireworks.
All right, well, that's good news to me. That's all I got.
I just want to say something really quick, Mayor. There is an active GoFund account, right, to raise money. So look out for that, people that are on TV.
Facebook page, or you can search it on GoFundMe. Colfax 3rd of July. All I had was I wanted to encourage some more thought and discussion with Chief Estes and the county regarding the fire service contract and other options we may have, and also thinking about the water tender again. We just want to keep that on everybody's mind. We're losing our more than likely going to lose our Type 2 engine that's stacked over here at the station across from the post office. It's has a lot of mechanical issues. It's going down for an estimate, but odds are it's going to be not beneficial to replace that apparatus, or not beneficial to repair that apparatus, and it's going to need to be replaced. We're going into an extremely dry fire season this year. We're going to be hurting for that piece of equipment that we're not purchasing, and next year, unless we get some crazy rain, we're probably going to be in the same boat again. Fires are getting bigger and causing more devastation. And it's just a matter of time before we get a fire here in Colfax. We're doing everything we can to protect this town. We're not going to have the equipment we need to do it on our end. We've got plenty of resources and assistance coming from the state and the county, and we're going to. I'm sure we'll do everything we can. But it's nice that Colfax would have that piece of equipment to be able to protect its community. Just want to bring that up again. If doesn't look like we're going to have another council meeting until we get information back from the county about the contract proposal. So we can hold off till then. But I was hoping if we had our meeting in early May, we could at least talk about it. So if people are okay with that, I'd like to at least continue to keep a discussion on, so we can keep talking this through. It's a pretty important issue to not make sure we've done all the research we can and investigated every option and made sure that we're good where we need to be. And that was all I had. Anybody have anything else?
We'd like to announce tonight that the May 12th meeting is canceled.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So we have made a decision that the May 12th meeting will be canceled. There's not much on the agenda. So we're pushing it off to 27. 26. All right. Okay. May 26th will be our next council meeting. All right. If there's nothing else, then can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.